I was 17 when Mom remarried. Her second husband, Richard, came into our lives with a quiet presence and a respectful tone. I didn't mind him, not really. He treated Mom kindly, and that was enough for me at the time. What I hadn't expected, though, was that he'd come with a son, Jake. Jake was 18, a little older than me, confident in a way that made people turn their heads when he walked into a room. When I first saw him, standing beside his dad at our kitchen counter with a soda in one hand and his phone in the other, I felt something stir inside me. Something unfamiliar. We were polite in the beginning, friendly even, but there was always a strange undercurrent between us, like we were both pretending we were just two new siblings adjusting to life under one roof, when in reality, we weren't related by blood, and we both knew it. The tension started in the small things. He'd walk past me in the hallway and brush my shoulder just enough to make me notice. He'd sit close on the couch when no one else was around, so close that I could feel the heat of his skin. And sometimes, late at night, I'd find myself lying awake wondering if he was thinking about me, the way I was thinking about him. One Saturday afternoon, Mom and Richard had gone out of town for a wedding. Jake and I were left alone in the house. It was quiet, too quiet, and I tried to keep myself busy watching some mindless TV show. Jake walked into the living room, holding a bowl of popcorn, and plopped down beside me. He was wearing a plain white t-shirt and sweatpants. His hair was messy, like he'd just gotten out of bed, and he looked comfortable in a way that made my heart race. "You watching this, or can I change it?" he asked casually. I shrugged. "Go ahead." He flipped the channel to an old movie, one of those coming-of-age romances. I laughed a little. "Really?" I teased. "What?" he said, grinning. "I like it." We watched in silence for a while, both pretending to be focused on the screen, though I could feel his eyes drifting toward me every few minutes. I was hyper-aware of how close he was, of the way my leg was just barely brushing against his. Halfway through the movie, he turned to me and said, "You ever been on a real date before?" I shook my head. "No, not really. Just school dances. Nothing serious." He looked thoughtful. "You want to go on one?" I blinked. "With you?" He gave me a smirk. "Why not? Just for fun." I knew I should have said no. I should have laughed it off. But instead I found myself nodding. "Okay," I said. "Let's do it." He stood up like it was no big deal and said, "Give me 10 minutes. Meet me on the porch." I didn't know what to expect, but when I stepped outside, he was waiting by the car, holding the passenger door open like a proper date. He'd changed into jeans and a button-down shirt, and he'd even swiped a little cologne from Richard's dresser. I could smell it the moment I stepped close. He took me to a local diner, the kind with red leather booths and milkshakes served in tall glasses. We sat across from each other, laughing about the menu options and pretending we were strangers. "You look really pretty tonight," he said suddenly, and I froze. I knew this was supposed to be pretend, a joke between step-siblings bored on a weekend night. But the way he looked at me, it didn't feel like a joke. "Thanks," I whispered. The car ride home was quiet, tense. I could feel something shifting between us, something real. When we got back, we didn't speak. We just walked into the house and stood in the dim light of the kitchen, neither of us moving. "Good night," I said softly. He reached out and touched my hand. "Wait." I looked up at him, and for a second, we just stood there, breathing the same air. Then he leaned in. His kiss was gentle, unsure. It lingered just long enough to make my knees go weak. When he pulled away, I didn't say a word. I just turned and went upstairs, my heart pounding like a drum. That night, I lay awake replaying every moment over and over. I told myself it was just one kiss, that we were just two confused teens living under one roof. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. Weeks passed, and things between us shifted in small, silent ways. He'd glance at me across the dinner table with eyes that said more than words ever could. I'd find excuses to be near him, to talk to him, to linger in the hallway a little longer. Then came prom. I hadn't planned on going. I wasn't dating anyone, and I didn't want to go alone. "But Jake," he asked me. "I'll rent a tux. he said casually one afternoon. We'll just go together. As friends. Unless you want it to be more. I stared at him, unsure. But the way he looked at me, like he already knew my answer, made it impossible to resist. Prom night was like a dream. We danced, laughed, held hands when no one was watching. When we got back home, still in our fancy clothes, he led me to the backyard and we lay down on the grass, staring at the stars. Do you ever think this is wrong? I asked him. He turned to me. All the time. Then why does it feel so right? He kissed me again, and this time it wasn't gentle. It was hungry. It was filled with weeks of tension, with feelings we hadn't dared to name. When we finally pulled apart, he whispered, I don't care what anyone says. I want you. It was reckless. Dangerous. But in that moment, I wanted him too. Summer came, and things grew more complicated. Mom and Richard were planning a big family vacation, talking about college and careers and futures. Jake had been accepted to a school 2 states away. I was staying local. One night, a week before he was set to leave, we sat in the attic, where no one ever went. We talked about everything, life, dreams, what would happen to us. Do you think we'll forget each other? I asked. He reached out and took my hand. Never. He kissed me again, softly this time. Then again, and again, until we weren't talking anymore. The attic felt like a world of its own, far away from judgment or expectations. We didn't speak after that. There were no promises, no dramatic goodbyes. When he left, it was quiet. A hug at the front door. A lingering glance. For months, we didn't talk. I tried to move on. I went on real dates. I tried to feel something. But no one else made my heart ache the way Jake did. A year later, he came home for the holidays. We were both different. Older. Wiser. He walked into the living room like he belonged there. And maybe he did. But the moment our eyes met, I knew it hadn't gone away. That night, we found each other in the kitchen again, like old times. No one else was awake. Hey, he said. Hey. We stood there, quiet, until he said, Do you remember our first date? I laughed. How could I forget? He stepped closer. I still think about it. I do too, I whispered. He reached out, and just like before, our hands found each other. His touch was familiar. His presence comforting. We weren't kids anymore. We weren't confused. We knew exactly what we were doing. I don't know where life will take us. Maybe we'll move on. Maybe we won't. But I'll always remember that night. The first date of my youth. And the boy who wasn't really my brother, but changed my heart forever.